Oh, pardon me. I forgot my lip gloss today. Hmm. I always like my little chapstick. But hello, everybody, and welcome. I am the Raging Tomato. It's kind of weird having the white background. I usually like to put the white or like the same thumbnail in the background, and it's actually really weird looking because it makes the whole screen different. Um, Tonight, as you all should probably know, I hope you're all jumping into the chat and getting into the viewer spot and kicking your feet up and enjoying some popcorn. I have none other than the lovely Jazmen Jafar. I don't know how I got so lucky.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm really excited to be here.
Yes, absolutely. Jazmen Jafar, welcome to the Raging Tomato. Do you even know where you're at right now?
It was a really cool intro. Thank you for having me. Yeah,
No,
usually don't
absolutely.
like people's intros, but that's a good one.
Oh yeah, it's kind of like cute and quirky.
Yeah,
And I've
but
been debating.
it keeps you, you just are like kind of just locked in on it. You're like, oh, what's happening?
Good, good, good. Well, oh, and I'm sorry. I have to give the shout out to Mama Tomato. That is my mother. She is my number one, always here to support, always my biggest fan. I love you, Mama. Hi.
Hi.
But yeah, yeah. So, Jasmine, I just wanted to start off with one maybe easy question, but maybe it's a hard question. And the question is who is Jasmine Jafar? Who are you?
Who is Jazmen Jafar? So, for those of you that aren't familiar with me at all, I have kind of like a unique story. I am a licensed attorney. I have been for a couple years now, and I'm also an OnlyFans creator, which is usually not a combination you typically see. But yeah, I graduated and I passed the bar, got my license, and I decided, hey, I don't know if this is what I want to do. And so I started an OnlyFans, not thinking anything would come of it. And then I've been able to not only build a career through that, but also get online and do stuff like this and showcase my personality and kind of advocate for the positions that are meaningful to me. And yeah, it's been great. It's been a whirlwind, but I couldn't be happier. I would have never guessed like 3 years ago that this would be my life.
Well, I mean, I did see a couple interviews about kind of your education and family life, and you kind of were, in a way, almost felt. Correct me if I'm wrong, but kind of felt forced to go down the law school route in a sense. So when you were a little girl, for instance, and somebody said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" What would you say?
Well, yeah. So I guess it wasn't forced, but it was expected, and
Hmm.
kind of the expectation. And this is pretty typical of Iranian immigrant families. That my parents are both immigrants from Iran. I was born in the States, and the expectation is you go into one of the fields that they have deemed, acceptable, which is engineering, doctor, or lawyer. Those are the main three. So even if I was just like, oh, I want to do social media, they probably would be like, oh no. And when I was young, I'm 29 now, that wasn't even something that people said. So I just was like, oh, I'm just gonna do what's expected of me. I mean, when I was a kid, I might have said like, oh, I want my job to be to like own the mall or something stupid. But I never really, it's not like I ever wanted to go into like a specifically different field. And then my
Mm.
parents were like, no, you have to do this. I was really interested in psychology. That was what I majored in undergrad. And my parents were fine with it, but they're like, you have to go to the PhD level.
Hmm.
So the reason I chose law over that is because I was like, well, it's 3 years and then I can make more money faster. And since my mom's a lawyer, I was going to like work. I was like, oh, I'll just have an easier route this way.
Right.
But it was never something I was like super passionate about. I knew I'd be good at it just because like law school kind of, is perfect for like my skill set, like reading, writing, analyzing. I'm not
Mhm.
like great at math and I'm scared of blood, so I knew I couldn't do couldn't go the doctor route. So it was just kind of like the path of least resistance, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, which is interesting.
Not a lot not a lot of people.
I know it's crazy because people are like, "Oh my god, law school! Oh my god, like that's so much work." But I'm just very good at like test taking, which is a lot of what this
Mhm.
profession, like the schooling at least, is like so. it wasn't, I'm pretty good at like procrastinating and then cramming and then doing well on an exam, which was pretty much my life. But then once it
Mhm.
got to, okay, now you have a 9 to 5, now you have billable hours to meet, now you have to go in every morning and do this. I was like, damn, I don't want to. But I mean, I never thought there was another option. I was like, well, what am I going to do? I mean, I went through all this work and this is just going to be my life. But I remember I was dreading, like, because law school is 3 years. So by like the middle of second year, which is also when COVID hit, I was like, I only have a year and a half left before. I used to literally make a joke with my friends. I'd be like, oh, my life is going to be over at that time.
Fair enough. So I noticed one thing you had mentioned, the reading, the writing, and like analyzing and interpreting, right? That's something you're very good at. But one thing I always like one thing I always notice about you, especially in debate, is your ability to bring data to the table with not just saying, here's the stats, with an understanding to the stats. Is that something that you felt like you kind of were drawn to? Because you just always have a very clear understanding. Not a lot
Yeah.
of people can do that. So what is something there that draws you to like diving in? Is it like a focal point for you, or is it just I'm going to annihilate this person in a debate and I'm going to research everything possible?
Well, I would see all these claims being made on the internet, like a claim like, oh, men are like this or women are like this. And like the first thing I think of, well, is that true? I mean, doesn't seem like they've put forth compelling evidence. So then I would research. I'd be like, okay, is this, and then I'd see what the actual truth was. And I would like read the studies and the interpretation of it and what was a logical conclusion based on the data. And I was like, oh, yeah, no, it's not true. So to me, I mean, a lot of these claims are made based off either anecdotal evidence or no
Mhm.
evidence, and those are pretty weak. And the strongest evidence we have for a claim is studies and data and research and science. So that is always the best place to start.
Right.
So if you're going into these conversations, I think that is the first place that you should start at, and then if go into your anecdotes or whatever else.
Right. Well, and I feel like some data sometimes can forget the human element.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, we can run these stats, but nobody seems to go a little further to say, like, let's interpret the why instead
Yeah.
of just the what.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only piece that I feel is missing, especially like the divorce rates. I think it's like 70 something percent of women are the ones who push the button for divorce, but nobody goes in and says, why? Like,
Yeah,
why
yeah.
did she do that?
And a lot of it is speculative, but then that's why you look at what we know. We know a lot of people, they list infidelity, they list a number of other things that would indicate that they're not necessarily the ones, the way the red pillars frame it as like, oh, they just got bored and they just want to leave and go to a higher status male. When you're looking at the person who files for the divorce is not the person who ended the marriage
Right.
necessarily. And a lot of
Right.
times these things are mutual and it's just whoever's filing the paperwork. So there's a lot of like data points and just facts that these people ignore to fit their narrative.
Mhm.
So yeah, like you said, they just say, oh, this must mean there's 70% of women file for divorce. This must mean X. And I'm like, okay, well, let's look at why they're, like you said, what are the reasons that they're listing? How do these things typically go? And like, is it that these women are getting divorced and they're getting some type of great financial reward or benefit afterwards? Well, the data does show that a lot of them actually have a decrease in their standard of living and they actually are
Right.
less likely to repartner. So that doesn't seem to fit that narrative. And you just kind of see what you can work with to figure out the why and to kind of dismantle a false narrative or a false conclusion from that data set.
See, this is why I like you so much because you're not just intelligent, but you're able to sit down and analyze and ask the why questions, right? You're not just a numbers guru. Like you're looking at the data and you're interpreting and you're asking more questions. With that being said, I remember watching you. It was on Fresh and Fit, and you were like, I think they booted you, and because you were trying to get them to read the data. You're like, look, it's right here. You were so
Yeah,
prepared.
and they were like, "Well, our chat said." I'm like, "Who cares about your chat?" I was like,
Right. I'm here right now.
beautiful production setup, and you guys can't put up stats on the screen. And actually, I
Mhm.
found out through a couple people that DM me after that they were deleting the source too, which was I thought was crazy. Like people were
Wow.
that I was referring to, and they were deleting it. So, you know,
Do you feel like that narrative, like in order to push the narrative whichever way they want it to work, do you feel like that's kind of a going rate on a lot of debate platforms you've been on? Or
I think that a lot of them struggle with like audience capture. And
Mhm.
so they want to please their audience. And a lot of times their audience is there for like a bloodbath or like an owning like session, especially when it comes to owning women or owning OnlyFans girls or sex workers. So I think some of it is to appease their audience. But sometimes no, sometimes it's just like, the comment section is the comment section. But
Mhm.
I would say like, although I disagree with a lot of like Brian Atlas's opinions on whatever, every time we've debated, I don't think he was ever trying to like come in and intentionally make me seem wrong if I was correct or whatever, the way I did get the sense of that on Fresh and Fit.
Wow. I did watch the Marquette one recently, and I had to kind of give everybody a preface that was coming on here. And I'm like, look, there will be no roasting tonight. This poor girl, like, this is an easy night for her. We're just going to have conversations. We're going to ask questions, but like, she can't show up anywhere without getting hit left and right, front and center. Like, it's just constant like belittling, or they're negating your intelligence, they're discrediting you left and right. And I think that was one of my questions to you, like, because what was it? Like they say, you're just a sex worker. What do you know? And when
Yeah.
you actually start having the conversation and showing them and correcting them on the data that they're providing, or the misinformation or the narrative or whatever they're pushing, I notice as soon as you start outsmarting them, they immediately run to the like, only you're just an OnlyFans girl. And
Yeah.
it breaks my heart because I'm like, why can she not be beautiful and smart at the same time? Like, why can't those two go together?
Yeah, because it bothers them, right? They want their. I've talked about this before, because they don't like what we do, or some of them just don't like women. When they see a woman kind of getting away with something that they deem to be like, something that should be stigmatized, like OnlyFans, they need to somehow belittle it, or they need to wait for like, the shoe is going to drop on the other foot, you're going to be miserable, or you are never going to find love, or you're going to blah blah blah. Now, one of the reasons I think I'm just very well suited for this is it really doesn't bother me like at
Mhm.
all. I don't really care. To me, it just makes it more interesting. It opens up room for dialogue, and it does actually impact people. I get DMs all the time from their own audience being like, "Oh, I did look into that stat, and you were right. I may not
Mhm.
agree with you on everything, but you did change my mind about X thing." Also, these guys put us on and they do all this, and we make a ton of money afterwards from their own audiences subscribing to us. So if there's going to be a winner or a loser in this, the loser is not us.
Right?
We're
And
the
that's
ones making the money from it. So
but would you agree? I'm not going to put words into your mouth, but would you agree that all of these guys that discredit you for all of these very reasons, don't you think that if they could do the same thing, they 110% would?
of course, if these people, if men could, in general, hop on OnlyFans and make like the kind of money I'm making, I would be hard pressed to not see all of them with an OnlyFans profile tomorrow. Yeah, of course, and a part of that does come from that
Mhm.
bitterness and the resentment. And sometimes some of I like at least I like prefer the ones that are honest. Like I'll get comments sometimes. It's like it's just really unfair that you get to sit at home and do this while I work X amount of hours and blah blah blah. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. That is, I guess, not fair. At least you're just being honest about the reason that you resent me. But some of them are just,
Mhm.
oh, it's the downfall of society, and we can't let this stand. And it's funny because men were not complaining about porn until women started having OnlyFans,
Making
making
making a lot of money off of it.
exactly.
I
When
mean,
it was being exploited by mainstream porn companies, they did not care.
man, no, I agree. And I think that, I mean, I don't think it's for me just
Hmm.
because I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily a morality stance. I just don't think I'm cut out for it. Right.
Yeah.
Because if I could sell some feet pics,
Hmm.
and send a few feet pics every now and then, and do the same amount as my day job and all of these things, I 110% would do that. But,
Hmm.
I just don't think I'm going to do well in it. But for somebody as beautiful as yourself, and you're very unique, like between your physique and your face and your skin is just so perfect, I'd probably give up a limb for it. But like, with all of those things, like, why not.
Yeah. And I
Because
always, oh, sorry.
my apologies, every girl on earth, if they looked like you, I 110% believe they would do it. And if every dude had that same ability that you have, to do this, they would do it as well. If they
Well,
could be as successful.
thank you. And I mean, I would say that like when people, like when other girls come and like, I want to be like you, should I start this? It's not something that I just say you should do, because you have to have like the temperament for it. You have to be
Mhm.
able to, it does have to align with your values. Like you say, it's not a morality issue for you, but for some people it is, and it doesn't
Mhm.
align with their values. They could, have religious beliefs or other beliefs that would be violated by doing something like this. So I never recommend doing it for like a quick buck, because a lot of times
Right.
people don't even make that and then deal with certain consequences. You do have to have the temperament to be like hated on and to have people judge you and say these terrible things. So for some people, even no matter how you look, it's just not good for your well-being, and it's not conducive to your happiness. It
Mhm.
is for a certain type of person. Now I'm super happy that I fit that mold, but for everyone, I do wish that women were free to just make these decisions based on those things, instead of like having to worry about societal stigma. But this is just the world we
Mhm.
live in. That is just the reality of doing this kind of work.
No, I agree with you, and I look at it as more power to you. If you're capable of doing that and you're doing it well and you're making a living off of it, I am not going to downsize that or downplay it by any means. I think it's phenomenal. I think it's beautiful, and I think like this type of work goes back for centuries. Like how are we gonna like we're just advancing with technology and utilizing the tools, right? And I always like to say, use your assets, ladies. You have them there for a reason. That's you either are getting free drinks or you're getting doors open for you or whatever the case may be, but utilize what you have. And you are very unique because you have both beauty and brains. And so you're able to platform on YouTube and go into these debate modes and go argue stupid people over really dumb things sometimes. Like it's almost sometimes I'm looking at you and I'm like, the poor girl. But it's like you have that capture of it, but then you also have the beauty side of it that you're able to hone in on as well. And you're able to kind of mold the two together. It's beautiful. Like you are incredibly unique. I love it. And let me go check this real quick. Sarah, someone time me out of my account, Don Juan, when you said it's cool for me to ban unsafe. Who did it? Jasmine, hope your trip to Vegas went well. Jasmine, do you want to speak to the Vegas thing? And then I'll take care of the housekeeping after that.
Yeah, Vegas went really well. I went with my friend Farha. We had a conversation with Jake Shields, and we also talked to Michael Sartain. The Michael Sartain podcast is up on his channel if you guys want to go check that out. He is one of the more reasonable and good faith red pill debaters. So I do actually think it was a productive conversation, which I don't always say when I debate these types.
Sometimes you win, sometimes you don't, especially with the debate arena. It gets rough. And Don Juan, thank you again for the 4.99. I do appreciate it. I know what happened. That person probably is not familiar with what happened last stream, but to that super mod, if he's timing out safe and sound, we're gonna let it be because safe and sound is taper. He's trolling, so we're gonna let that one slide going forward. But fair enough, Don Juan. That person is doing what they've been informed to do, just the same as you are as well. So everybody's doing their job. So this is an accountability. It's good. We're working with it. And then Don Juan coming in also again with the $1.99. He's a full supporter of the Bratty Tomato, by the way. Saying, Jasmine, I've been drizzle since 2008, by the way.
Hi, John. Nice to meet you.
What is drizzle? I've been seeing this lately.
I literally have no idea. I was hoping I could just say that and no one would know I didn't know what that was.
I don't know what it means either. If anybody in the chat could explain
We're
the
out of
drizzle.
touch.
I'm too old to be up with the times.
I feel
Okay.
too old as I'm too old too. I know I used to have no social media before I started my OnlyFans, so I feel like I'm always like out of the loop as well.
Yeah, trying to catch up. That's how I feel.
Unless it's in my comment section, like mid 304 or whatever. I catch on to those, but otherwise I don't know.
It took me forever to understand 304. I had to ask somebody. I was like, what's 304 mean? But I mean, I was the same as you as well. Like I'm 37. I just turned 37. Holy shit. But
You
sometimes
look
I have to.
incredible.
Thank you. I try. It's I drink the tears and blood of lonely men, and it keeps me here. So but, my daughter, she's the ripe age of 14 and knows all about technology. And I remember making my first TikTok, and I was like, okay, pumpkin, I need your help. Like,
Oh,
please help. And then Instagram, like she helped me make my first post and all of these things. And thank God, this is where I feel blessed being a fairly young mom, because I was
mm-hmm.
what, 22 when I had her. So I feel very blessed having her to help me, especially with my YouTube now. And now I'm pushing out to other platforms like Twitter and Insta. I never had those before.
Yeah,
So having a 14-year-old in the house who knows how to
that
run
is,
stuff,
yeah.
it's
Oh,
beneficial.
that I would love that. I just am like,
And then we have Neo Starling coming in, and you'll be able to meet his lovely self here in just a bit. But he says, for the bratty tomato. Also, it's the hourglass for me, Jasmine. Shout outs to everyone. I was looking at that today too on your Insta, and I was looking at your pictures. I was like, how does it just literally go like this and then go like that?
I think like I have not had plastic surgery on my body at all, which I know is really surprising, but it's pretty obvious on my OnlyFans because I know in like a top my tits are like, but you know they hang the way natural boobs
Mhm.
do, and
Yes.
yeah, it's just been like that. I literally, and that's part of the reason maybe that going on OnlyFans wasn't like difficult for me because I grew like I pretty much developed a similar body type like from when I was like 14. So I was used to getting like so much like attention for it, and
Mhm.
it never like bothered me. It never like made me feel self-conscious. It also never made me feel like that's like a trope, like, oh, that's all you're good for. Like I always felt like I was such a cool, awesome person. Like I just felt like this was all just a little cherry on top. So it never, so transitioning into OnlyFans, it's like, oh, do you care that people are like sexualizing you? I'm like, no, awesome. They're paying me for it. Like,
Right. Right. Like they're like, what's it matter at that point? They're okay, because I look at it this way. You could go to a bar and
mm-hmm.
every man in the bar is going to sexualize you, whether verbally, with his eyes, they'll do the butt grab as you're walking by, one way or the other. At least in this instance, you're getting paid to deal
Yeah,
with it.
people are like, oh my god, or how do you like? People are sexualizing you on your life. How do you feel? I'm like, yeah, I'm putting my content out there to be sexualized because that is what I. That's how I'm making an income. So no, it doesn't. It doesn't bother me at all. But I think part of my figure might have been why that was such an easy transition for me to
Mhm.
make, and why it didn't make me uncomfortable. Like I've kind of always been really comfortable with like nudity. Now that doesn't translate into like, which a lot of people assume that because you're comfortable like putting yourself out there to be sexualized that you're also super like promiscuous, which I don't think
Mhm.
being promiscuous has any like
Mm-mm.
moral issue with it, but it's just not that I'm less comfortable with and that I don't engage in for my personal reasons. So it's all about listening to yourself and what you're comfortable with and what you're not comfortable with, and not letting other people's opinions about you impact how you feel about you. You know, I say this a lot when
Right.
people are like, oh, you have no respect for yourself. Like, how would you know that? You don't have respect for me. That's fine. But, you know, or like you think you have no value other than your body. Like, no, I really think I'm awesome. So you have to be able to look at people's comments as a reflection of them instead of you.
Right. No, I agree. And I always like to look at it like they're trying to. It's because they're so insecure with their own bodies and their own sexuality and the way they look at it as a whole, that they're going to pin that on you and kind of like degrade you in that aspect, because if they're uncomfortable with it, how dare you be comfortable with it?
Exactly.
And that's the part that they're not understanding is a lot of women are more comfortable with these kinds of things than most people presume. Some just come out of their shell, some do not. But
Yeah.
in any event, those who do decide to come out of their shell and express it the way you do, like, why hate on that?
I
Why
think
why could you hate on that?
There's a couple reasons, like, it depends, and men and women may have different reasons for hating, and every individual person may have like their own issues with it. But it's kind of like I've noticed a lot of women kind of are like, I feel like they want to do what I do, but they were like they're too scared or they're too whatever. And so they're kind of mad at me for doing it instead of being like, no, we were all supposed to be in this like alliance where we don't behave like this and we're not supposed to be like this, and you're coming in and and it's interesting. I like to watch a lot of content that I disagree with from viewpoints. And I've been hearing this a lot from like the trad women or like social conservative women, which I have no issue with, but they go like, well, these women that are doing this are ruining it. It's making it harder for us, or whatever. They always have something like that where and you never see the reverse. Like you never see us sitting there and being like, oh, like
Never.
they should start an OnlyFans and that would help.
I watched your thoughts. Was it Thoughts with Thoughts? I think.
Yeah.
And I was listening to that because you're like, we never come at them saying like,
no,
why don't you?
And I'm like, don't be a stay-at-home mom. Go start an OnlyFans.
Right, right. But you know what? But you know what? The same women that are doing that and projecting that towards you, all it takes is a margarita for them, and they'll anybody.
Oh yeah.
Just saying. That they're mad that you're actually getting paid to just look beautiful on a screen and not having to do anything where, all it takes for them is a couple margaritas and they subside to anything.
Yeah.
So you and your self-control are intimidating.
Exactly. And it's always just very irritating when women attack you because it's like, don't you see like there all these men I'm debating that think we shouldn't even be able to vote and you're over here mad. So I luckily, just because my audience is so predominantly male, just because like I post really like sexy stuff, right. So I get most of the hate from them, but once in a while you'll see like girls that are coming in just really upset, and I'm like, okay, like
no, I get it. I understand it by way of from a person who is not and looking in, I can see why they would be intimidated by it, jealous, envious, all of those things, because you're beautiful. Like I wouldn't want to walk next to you in a bar.
Thank you.
like I'd be like, all right, I'm just gonna go ahead and tap out for the night. Like I'm not getting anybody's numbers if I'm walking next to you. Like I will happily be your little wingman, whatever, but like I'm just gonna go ahead and call it. I know it and I understand it and I respect it, and more power to it. The only way I would win is if they prefer a blonde over a brunette. But
which
even
many do.
But even then, my chances might be very, very slim from there. But and me, my body is like this. I might have a little.
Some people prefer that, though. Like I mean,
some do.
Kinds of but I'm sure you're familiar with the creator Not So Erudite. I don't think she actually made the video yet, but she was talking to me about making a video about dark femininity, kind of talking about this kind of concept using like her own experiences. She said with growing up and feeling insecure and like projecting that onto women who got more attention and stuff. So I don't know if she made that video, but I think it's a really interesting like topic just to look into. Like,
oh no, absolutely. And I think my mom even texted me the other day. What was it? She asked me if I knew what a what was it? Let me look at it real quick, because this totally pertains to exactly what I'm a duff. Do you know what a duff is?
No.
So I forget which show it came from, but it came from either a movie or a show, and it's Designated Ugly Fat Friend. Right? Yeah. And Duff, there he is. And she was like, do you know what a Duff is? And I was like, oh yeah, Designated Ugly Fat Friend, right? And I feel like, the groups of women, when you go to bars, like things just kind of always work out one way or the other, or sometimes you might be surprised, but in a group of friends, there's always going to be that one beauty, right? There's always going to be that one that like has the tendency to shine or just gets more attention or whatever. And I think as a whole, everybody should like acknowledge and love that, because if there's going to be one person in there that is getting what they need or bringing free drinks to the group of girls or whatever the case may be, like let it shine. Let the diamond shine, because it brings more people over.
And I will say this, there are a lot of women, thankfully, that have this kind of mentality, which I think is great. Like, there's always like this trope about, oh, women are all jealous and haters and they're catty, and some are, but there are also a lot of women who are nothing but supportive, nothing but kind, nothing but, they don't hate on anyone like that they perceive as more attractive than them, or any of
Mhm.
those things. Yeah, I've heard of that. I learned recently the cheerleader effect too. Have you heard of that?
No, do
So
tell.
the cheerleader effect is how a woman will look better, like she'll look more attractive if her friends are. I don't even know these red pills. But yeah, there's all kinds of different, things that they say about a group and how different members of the group can now change the perception of other members of the group. I'll say this, like I've always just been friends with whoever could make me laugh, and like my whole life, people assume just because of like, maybe the way I look or the way I dress, that I would be friends with like a particular type of girl, like similar to me. And
Mhm.
ever since high school, like I was like, oh, like the goth, like theater kids are funnier. Like I'm just going to go hang out with them. And people are always like, oh, this is so like mismatched, And I was like, I don't care. Like, I just want to be around people who are great and can make me
Yeah.
laugh. And sometimes when I see girls that are like friends with girls that just look exactly like them, and it's just like an
Mhm.
aesthetic thing, I'm just like, life's too short.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And actually, my BFF Ashley, she is not your everyday Ashley XOXO. She's another channel. We've been friends for about 20 years now. We're total opposites, complete opposites. When we go to a bar, like she's the crazy one, just like doing the most random, ungodly things around a bar that you could imagine. And I'm over there and I'm like poised and like reserved. And I'm like, okay, well, you go do your thing. I'll be right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, my best friend is like a Samoan cage fighter, like just super fast. I know. And I'm always with my heels, like 5 foot tall, like cute. And it just like, but we've been
And
friends for.
she's like leggings and a tank top.
Oh yeah, no, I know she's getting married actually, and I'm like, please, like, let me
Wow.
like figure out the outfit because
Aw. But
yeah.
that's what see, and that's what I love about friendships is like polar opposites doing different things, and that to me has been more appealing in the nature of like men being attracted to us at a bar or even just her and I on screen, like we're total polar opposites, and that's what makes our screen chemistry. Most people on YouTube don't have a type of screen chemistry with another person that they do, or compared to Ashley and I. We get it, we can finish each other's sandwiches, and we can go from there. And it's beautiful the way that works, and I think everybody needs, every Sarah needs an Ashley and every Ashley needs a Sarah. So,
I
but
love that.
and you having a cage fighter and you being so, like Barbie doll versus cage fight, like that makes it even
Her name's
better.
actually Ashley too,
Oh
so
my God.
everyone needs an Ashley, I guess.
Everyone needs an Ashley. And she's out enjoying the time of her life. She's at like a rock festival of some sort, or she's on her way to it. So shout out to you, Ashley. I know you're busy. I know you're touching grass. So have some fun. And Don Juan coming in under his own name finally, because the timeout has been lifted for the $1.99. Drizzle is about women paying for everything. What do you think about? Do you pay for everything, or do you
Um,
do you date?
I mean, okay, so I guess I'm sort of dating the guy I film with, and I don't pay him from the tapes. So because of that, because I'm making like if we got to dinner or something, like I'll pay for that. I
Mhm.
don't. I mean, if it was just like a first date with a random guy and he invited me, I feel like, the person who asks should pay. Like I feel like the
Yeah.
person who asks is hosting, but I don't have any like stringent like men should pay for everything or like I'm going to pay for everything. Also, my culture being Persian, we just always grew up seeing like our parents fight for the bill. So like if I'm going out with friends, like I want to pay for everything. Like I want
Mhm.
like that generosity is one of the most like there's a lot of things about my culture that I have obviously don't align with, like doing the kind of
Mhm.
work I'm doing, but that generosity towards others, I love that. So that's something that I've kept. So I guess I am kind of pro drizzle as long as
You're
it's not
drizzle, drizzle.
as long as it's not people that are taking advantage of it, which I wouldn't
Right.
surround myself with those type of people anyway.
I always look at it, if I invite you, then I anticipate the idea of paying for to entertain you, to have fun, being around you and your company. And I never want the financial burden to be a concern if I say, "Hey, there's a wine fest going on. I've got a couple tickets. Do you want to go?" And that's whether to a gal friend or a guy friend, doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah,
if I got the tickets and I want somebody to go with me, somebody I enjoy, somebody I, have good company with, then I'm inviting you to accompany me because you're entertaining, you're good people,
exactly.
whatever the case may be. And I do not expect you to return the financial portion of the tickets or whatever, or pay for dinner or whatever the case may be.
I feel like the
Um,
same way. Or like when I'm like going on a trip with someone and I know like their hotel preference might be like at a certain level or like that fits their fine, but I have like a standard I like just typically prefer. I feel like that's one of the great things about, being like, doing well financially is that I can now not only make sure that I can do things that are up to my standards, but I can bring in my friends and be like, look, like I'm not expecting you to like want to stay at this type of resort, but like I want to, and I'm gonna get the room anyway, so come stay with me. Like those
oh,
kinds of things
nice.
I feel like are very, yeah. I don't think about, oh, I paid for this. Like I don't think like that.
No, I agree. I agree. And I think that I always look at it like I never hold on to numbers.
Yeah,
So if I give somebody, if I buy a dinner, if I buy a drink, like that calculator is not going off in my head. Like, okay, I'm adding $3.99 to your tab for next year. I always look at it as like, they'll get me back whenever, or
yeah,
they'll buy an Uber or something. I don't know. I'm sure it'll come back some way or another. Or I also like to look at other ways of just being supportive, just being a friend. Like, I can call them, or they can like, the fact that they're even coming to something for me, or an event, or to me, I look at that like monetary is nothing. That is
yeah,
just, it's just a thing. But the support and the friendships, the accompanying me, that to me means everything in the world.
yeah,
So
yeah. Not even close for sure.
so we've determined, Don Juan, we are pro drizzle, and P Fletch coming in with the $10. Here's for the kid. Best wishes to her. Also, would like to see the two questions from earlier posed to Jasmine covered, ma'am. Oh, okay. So let me go back, P Fletch, and sorry, there's a lot going on in
No worries.
P Fletch. Okay, let me find your initial. All right. Well, you talk too much here. There's too much going on in here, P Fletch. Hold on. Okay, let me back up from the actual. I'm gonna find him, P Fletch. Unless you can drop him in again. Can you? Okay, drizzle drizzle is that new slang for an NPT. I hope that's not your question.
I saw that and I was like, oh, I did. And then when the other definition of drizzle drizzle came up, I was like, I guess no.
I thought I made the obvious but fairly clean lawyer joke as an opener. Okay, here we go. Jazmen Jafar, what are your thoughts about the inflated numbers practices of the gun violence archive?
I haven't looked into that, so I don't want to speak on something that I haven't, done the adequate research on. So I haven't seen those.
That is fair. Gun violence archive. I don't know about any of that either. Are we talking about like the FBI stats? Oh, wait. Here we go. Second one. Jazmen Jafar, would you say that your OnlyFans is kind of like the public turning the tables on you a bit? Yes, someone had to ask. What do you mean
Uh,
by that?
yeah. What does he mean by the public?
The
Like, I feel
public
like it
turning
would
the
make
tables
more sense
on you.
as like me turning the table. I don't know how the public is turning the table.
Um, I don't. Oh, I see. Yeah, I don't understand the question.
Yeah, if you want to clarify,
Oh, wait, it was from. Oh, yeah, Don Juan pulled it. Thank you, Don Juan. Oh, that was the lawyer joke. I don't get it. Oh,
gun.
I guess I don't know. I don't know, P. Fletch. I'm so confused. Either I'm a blonde moron, or but if two of us are not understanding it, would you say that your OnlyFans is kind of like the public turning the tables on you a bit? I don't know.
Yeah, if you want to clarify, I'd be happy to answer, but I'm not exactly sure what the question is getting at.
Oh, there we go. Problem
Okay,
solved.
there
I'm
we
kind of
go.
high. Fair
I'm
enough.
gonna be taking a gummy myself tonight, so
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, so what was like you've done a lot of debates, or at least from what I've seen. What would
yes.
you say like the worst one you've ever done, whether it be like you feel like you failed or you feel like it was just you weren't given the amount of time to talk or things were just terrible? What was the worst that you looking back are like, ugh?
The worst was I did a debate on, I wouldn't say it's like the worst, but like I did a debate on the whatever podcast regarding sex work 2v2, where it was me and Destiny versus Destiny's a pretty big debate
Mhm.
streamer versus Trent Horn and Lila Rose. And the reason that was just frustrating is it's very hard with like four people trying to like make a point. So I feel like while Destiny was making like great points, he's a great debater. Like I would want to be in on one topic, and he would want to be in one topic, and then one of them would want to be on one topic, and then the other one would like come in. So it was really hard to actually stay focused on what I wanted
Mhm.
to say. So just because of that, I'd say like that was one that I had like prepped for a ton and wish I was able to get into more.
Mhm.
But it just the circumstances didn't allow it. Yeah, besides that, like I mean, like Marquette, Saint and Sinner guy, like I mean, I wouldn't say like it when I went to that debate, I knew it was going to be like that. So
Mhm.
it wasn't some type of, oh my God, I left like feeling like, oh my God, he's such an, like I knew it. And we were going there for that purpose to kind of like joke around and like get a viral moment, which we did, and all that.
No, I thought it was hilarious because, Marquette was just, like, everything you kept trying to like, "What's the IP? What's this? What's that? What's
Yeah.
this?" Like, "I can't find this app. There's this scam. There's that," and he just wasn't having it, but even when he was trying to go to the super chats for you guys and for him, and you kept, like, busting in on it, like, "Okay,
I
well,
was
what about this? What."
And you know what's funny is last time in Vegas we were gonna do another thing with him, and he was like, "No," because Jasmine was the person who he told didn't see it or didn't know anything about him, and so I guess he wanted to save face instead of being like, "I lied about having this intellectual property." He's like, "No, Jasmine was saying rude things about my sponsors." I was like, "Who's?" I was like, "Who is the sponsor?" So I thought it was funny because that obviously didn't happen, and if anyone watched the debate, they know that he just doesn't want me to press on that one thing.
Right.
But I think, yeah, I mean, when he sits there and the context of that was him asking what tangible thing have we done and talking about the
Mhm.
tangible thing that he's done, and I'm like, well, where is it? Tell me more about it. And then it was like, oh, I
Right.
don't.
Yep. I love how when they ask the question and you give an answer, the answer is not enough. But then when you push back and you say, "Well, what about you?" And it's like, "No, no, 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 no,
Yeah,
no, 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 no. We're not going to talk about me. We're
exactly.
going to like focus on why you're terrible."
Yeah, why you were back? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. And Don Juan coming in with the $1.99. Thank you, Don Juan. He says he is Lord Susquet. Scammer went to jail for, I'm guessing that should be DUI. Ha. Thank you, Don Juan, for the clarification. I kind of appreciate that. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and tell anybody who has the link to jump on the panel. You're more than welcome to pop on between now and whenever. There are people out there that have them. You know who you are. We are not going into open panel tonight, folks, because, well, you see what she looks like. I'm not going to allow just any moron to get on screen with this girl.